everybody. It is Ryan Fowler here with my good friends Tim Costello, Jordan Kurtz, Inner Game Group Live every Saturday at this time. Today we've been covering a lot of narcissism, and this one is going to cover narcissistic parents in detail. And we have a interview with this therapist, and he's spelling it out pretty good. So also I'm going to talk a little bit about CPTSD. So a lot of good stuff we're going into today. Most importantly, how can you heal if you've had narcissistic parents? I think narcissism is on a spectrum. You can have a very severe case. There's a lot of, I would say, mild narcissism. Not your parents aren't MPD, and not all parents. But there are a lot of parents that do things that are, at a low level or typical of what narcissists do. So we're going to dive into that, see what that's all about. But before we do that, Jordan, welcome to the show. Tim, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself. Jordan first.
Hello, Jordan Kurtz. I help people using hypnosis. And recently I have been thinking a lot about how you particularly use like where do you start and where do you end when you discover you have a problem that might need some hypnosis work, and what is the process you take from just the general idea you have to actually using either one of us or using a self-hypnosis audio track. I've been doing a deep dive on that recently, but for the topic today is about narcissistic parents and people in your life. And I've been watching a lot of narcissism videos to understand it just better for myself, so I can better understand the people in my life who are like that. And I find it's very helpful. I think narcissism, if you've never encountered this, it can be seem a little foreign to you, because you're like, are people really like this? And he's like, yeah, there are people really like this, and they're Dr. Ramani actually has a book called "It's Not You" about interacting with narcissistic people. And
yeah,
so
narcissists make you think it's you. It's all your fault. So, talking about resources, Dr. Ramani, her YouTube channel. Is it just called Dr. Ramani, her YouTube channel?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
and then Melanie Tonia Evans is really great. Melanie Tonia Evans uses some woohoo language, but her methods are more effective than Dr. Ramani's when it comes to getting you better. Although Dr. Ramani describing narcissism, she's a master. She really is, as far as knowing all the ins and outs. And then I think, is it Richard Brannon? Is the guy with muscles? I think it's Richard Brannon or Grannon. Check him out, because he has a lot of good stuff too. And he uses some hypnosis, but I don't think he knows how to use it to really clear trauma, is kind of the feeling I got. But there's a lot of good resources, and we encourage, if you have narcissistic parents, to look into it. Just don't get into the trap of constantly ruminating over what your parents did and all of that. I mean, you want to connect to it and then clear it and get out of you. Rumination is tied to depression and rage and all of that. So,
right.
But anyways,
right.
So I'm Tim, and I do what these guys do. We're going to talk about it a lot. We do talk about it a lot. In fact, we're pretty hyper focused on it. And I want to say one thing about narcissists, or people with narcissistic tendencies. They are at the root a victim. They are also the victim of other narcissists, generally their parents, could be grandparents, could be aunts and uncles. We don't know. It's pretty complex, but those people that are suffering are victims as well. So and we're going to learn here, this guy talks about breaking the family tree. Until you stop the generational trauma that goes from generation to generation in your dysfunctional family, it won't stop. You have to take notice of it at some point, understand it, and see how we can help you rewire your subconscious so that you can be an optimum human being. And it's a process. Although the change comes quickly, the practice over time takes a while. I mean, there's a lot of good, Ryan often talks about self-talk, right? Self-talk is super important, that for over the years, you've beat yourself up so bad, you really need to be nice to yourself. And
Yeah.
that narcissistic tendency unleashed on yourself. So we'll talk a lot about that, but we'll get going. You can call any one of us and we'll help you out.
There is so much.
Yeah.
Honestly, there is a lot we know on this subject. And because Tim, your mom's parents, I'm not sure whether it's your mom or dad, narcissistic. I had a very severely narcissistic mom.
No,
She
that was
still
my
is.
wife's parents.
She still is. Yeah, your wife's parents. Your mom and dad are great.
Yeah.
And I'll let Jordan speak for himself. I'm sure you know some people. So
Yep.
yeah, so let's go ahead and dive into the clip. There's a couple of things I disagree with this guy, but just a very few as far as him really breaking down what narcissists do. It's narcissistic parents do. It's overall very accurate. So do you want to cue up that? Oh, you already got it. All right, cool.
Yep. I already got it.
Rock and roll.
You
And
got
I start at like the 2-minute mark, right at 2 minutes.
I think Tim said 154.
That's fine.
All right. Sounds good.
Oh, that's good there.
And discover their true selves. And this could possibly be one of the most powerful conversations we have here. I'm not just saying that, even though we've done this show for 12 years, because in my mind, we've talked a lot about narcissism and relationships and narcissism, but we haven't covered if you have experienced life with a narcissistic parent and the clear signs of if your parents were narcissistic or on the spectrum in any ways, and how that impacts you for everything in your life. And so I'm curious if we could start, Jerry, with what are the clear signs that you could start reflecting and asking yourself if one of your parents were narcissistic in any way?
One of the things certainly that I found is that so many people grow up under the family trance. And so the family trance, they don't understand the dysfunction of their family because it's been normalized. And I've used the term malignant normalcy because then if I grew up abused and I'm in an abusive relationship, I've normalized the abuse as not something I like, but I will accept, or it's kind of normal. But that's a malignant normalcy. That's not a normalcy you want to have. And so when people, when I think about helping people see, and really that's what my work is about, it's to help people see outside the box and to see in a broader way so much of all the dynamics that are going on within the family. And if you have a narcissistic family, or there's all kinds of other dysfunctional families too, there's some universals that go along with that. But when you say a narcissistic family, I think when you start to recognize, hey, they've always been controlling, they lack empathy, they guilt and shame, they could be abusive, but they don't have to be abusive to be narcissistic. They love you and they have a plan for your life. And I say love in with air quotes. That we used to say that in religious circles, God loves you and he has a plan for your life. Well, the narcissist loves you and they have a plan for your life and you better follow it.
Wow. Or else.
And the narcissist will be very self-absorbed. Everything is basically about them. That it always comes back to them. That's the whole focus. And if you have parents who have some of those type of traits, there are other traits, but some of those, people will always ask me, am I a narcissist? And I'll go, do you ever feel guilty? Oh yeah, all the time. Then you're not.
You're just dysfunctional.
You're just dysfunctional. No, right. A narcissist is not going to feel that guilt. They don't feel, what have they done wrong? They're always right. So that why would I feel guilt about anything or shame? So if you felt that, you're probably less likely to be a narcissist.
Let's
if
go ahead and
you
stop right
get-
there.
Sure.
So already, oh my goodness, there's so much to unpack
Yes.
here. So what he says at the end shows you how narcissism is a defense mechanism, because deep down, and I know this, you can cause narcissistic wounds, and every now and then you'll see this. If narcissists cannot take criticism, like, at all, and their defense mechanism is, well, I didn't do anything wrong, everything I do is right. But if you get through to what's called a vulnerable narcissist, and you maybe say something that just triggers them in just the right way, they can fall to pieces, and then they're going to want to rage at you or get back at you, etc. So it's called a narcissistic wound. But the entire psyche of the narcissist is to never feel that shame, to never trigger that shame that's deep down in them, and that is actually really, really, really bad inside of them. So how do they keep from feeling that pain? Oh, I didn't do anything wrong. If they ever do feel like they did something wrong, which is, again, they're doing everything they can to run away from that. And they're kind of two camps of narcissism. There's the invulnerable, who will just never admit to do anything wrong, and then there's the vulnerable, which you can wound. Their entire psyche is trying to never feel that. And that is why they're always right. Because if they're ever wrong, it messes them up. Trust me. I could count on one hand the amount of times I've been able, or I've seen someone narcissistically wound my mom, but when it happens, it's really bad. It really messes her up. So she's vulnerable type. Man, I still got more to unpack about normalcy, but I'll let you guys go. Like normal life, like I've totally experienced that. But go ahead, guys.
I'll just elaborate. The other alternative is that one of the interviews I was listening to yesterday talked about this with Dr. Amani, was that if some kinds of narcissists, if you accuse them something like, you were cheating on me, you were doing XYZ, and they feel bad, they'll attack you for making them feel bad about
exactly
themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's like, can they feel guilt? Yeah, technically, but they will just make you feel guilty for making them feel guilty.
Yep.
And
well, you can trigger them to feel shame, the vulnerable ones, not the I don't think you can with the invulnerable. The vulnerable ones you can, but it's so severe in them, and that's why they attack you, so that they don't have to feel it. Hey, instead of going inward, I'm going to direct this negative energy that's been brought up, I'm going to direct it outward and start attacking people. Yeah.
Right. How dare you make me feel bad about something bad that I did?
Yes. So every aspect of their psyche, it permeates them, is geared towards, I can never feel shame. I cannot handle it. And again, vulnerable narcissists, every now and then you'll give them a narcissistic wound, and it messes them up hard.
So I asked Ryan a couple of years ago, because I was always concerned, with his family, and I would love for his mother to be repaired so that they
Not
could have
going to happen.
they could have a.
What's up?
I was trying to talk, but everybody was talking over me. I just didn't want to interrupt anybody.
I'm sorry.
So I asked him a really important question. I said, Ryan, and I think I asked this down when you lived in Frisco or down in Denton. Okay. I said, could your mom, or take anybody who is diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder? And this is really important. I asked this question, didn't fully understand the answer then, but I do now. Mm-hmm. I said, would they have an opportunity to go through what we practice and be healed and be repaired and be corrected and be connected and have a normal life? And he said, technically, yes, right? Because anybody can experience what we're doing and have great benefit. But he said their makeup, and this is what he's talking about now, their makeup is such that they are unable, literally to the root or wherever right above their root, unable to accept that they were ever wrong, ever incorrect, ever damaged, ever a victim or anything. That would be a psychological wound or a narcissistic wound of massive proportions. So this is why, if you're the victim of a full-blown narcissist, you need to clear out. You need to get yourself cleared away. You need to get yourself squared away and on a much better path. And quite frankly, build your frame to avoid that person until you get really, really strong and healthy. And I understand that now, but when Ryan gave me that answer, I didn't really get it, because I'm like, everybody could experience this. Yeah. You can, but
If
you
you
may
choose to.
not. You can, but you may not. That's the full-blown narcissist.
Yeah, people can heal if they choose and if they're willing.
Correct.
But the entire psyche of a narcissist is running away from that choice.
Right.
Running away from going inward.
Yep.
So how are you going to get them to the point where they're willing?
I would have no idea.
And now, with that said, I have done sessions for a few small number of individuals who, narcissism's on a spectrum. Some are mildly narcissistic, some are severely, some are NPD, some are not narcissistic personality disorder. Some just have strong narcissistic traits and aren't quite full blown.
Yep.
And the people with narcissistic traits I've done sessions for, first off, because they're willing to do sessions, I think that right there means they're not like full blown narcissistic personality disorder. But these people I'm thinking of definitely have strong traits, and I could get them halfway better,
Right?
Which is really great, because they do have a lot of pain and insecurity inside, and fixing even half of it is massive. But I couldn't fix more than that, because there are some they have rigid mindsets. All narcissists do, and there's some areas of their psyche they would not go to and would not heal. Some they let heal, others they would not. And so I could only get so far. And I would talk to them about this, and I'm like, to get better, you have to let this go, you have to let this go, you have to be willing to do this. And they just flat out told me, I've always been this way. That's part of who I am. I'm not going to change that. And I've had conversations with these people, and I said, okay, well, that's your choice, but you will continue to suffer unless you change that. And they're not willing to. And it's like, all right, it is what it is.
So that is key. That is really key.
Willingness.
As we live in this world of clearing and helping people heal themselves from narcissistic abuse, to the point of knowing where you need to go to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think the other part of this we were going to comment on was about the trance. So I'll start off by saying, when I first had my hypnosis session with Ryan, all those 4 or 5 years ago now, and most clients come out and say this, it's like, I was swimming through muddy water all this time. I just didn't realize it. Now I'm swimming through clean water. And so that's kind of what he's talking about when he means I'm in this trance this whole time, is that I don't recognize that this isn't healthy, or it's not healthy, but it is normal. And so
it's all you've ever known. It's your entire worldview is inside this toxic bubble.
Yeah, he does call that the family trance.
Yeah.
That normalization of dysfunctional behavior.
Yeah, and
what do you think?
I'm curious what your experience here has been, Jordan. I'll just share real briefly. So I grew up in a family environment. It was my normal. And I had loneliness, and I had stuff struggling as a child, for sure. Negative emotions, things I struggle with, for sure, quite a bit. But what really started to devastate me is when I moved away from home, and I'm used to doing things a certain way, and I'm starting to notice that reality operates in a different way, and I have no idea how to handle reality and how reality actually operates. because the reality that worked for me in my family structure was super dysfunctional. So so when I started getting into the broader world and trying to solve certain things, such as, I've been raised a certain way and taught a certain way. If you do this, you'll find a nice girl. And then the girls, I could literally see, like, when I was younger, I worked out a lot. So I would be probably 7% body fat, 8%. Like, I was shredded and, 170 pounds, bench pressing 260. So, which for 170 is quite a bit. So I had a very nice physique in my early 20s, late teens, etc. And I'd see girls be attracted. Now, that's not the only thing girls are attracted to, of course, but I would literally interact with girls and see their attraction drain out of them. And it was so freaking frustrating. Like, I remember I was in high school and I had this girl who was the prom queen. She became the prom queen and she was interested in me, right? Because I had like this Calvin Klein model physique because I worked out, 4 or 5 days a week to deal with my trauma, among other reasons. And literally, they start out interested and the attraction would drain out. And like, as far as getting, second dates, I'd get a lot of first dates, very few second dates. And I know now what it was is, I had very low self-esteem and very much the gamma male, I'm a doormat. I'll do whatever I can to please you. A lot of anxiety, a lot of insecurity. And so, having this nice physique, relatively good looking guy, but, people gave me nicknames in college. They called me Little Arnold, like Little Arnold Schwarzenegger, they gave me all these nicknames because I was just ripped and shredded. And yet I start dating these girls and like at the end of the first date, their attraction's all gone. And just being like, what the hell is going on here? Why can't I get these girls? Right. But it's because of how I was raised, my entire worldview. My mom actually raised me, in that way to be this very nice, meek, boy, which is actually, it turns women on. Unless a woman's a predator, it's going to turn her off. So that's one aspect of the world, but just many other aspects of the world, I just could not understand because I was taught that the world was completely different than how the world actually is. And that's when my depression, I really started sinking into depression. My feelings of worthlessness really started coming out. So I'm wondering if you felt anything like that, like the environment you grew up in that was your normal. When you get into the real world, did you sense some sort of mismatch, or why is everything so confusing? Why do I feel so lost? Did that happen to you at all, Jordan? And I know we don't have the same family dynamic, but I know you had some dysfunction.
Similar. I mean, I think the realization was like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like my certain members of my family that always say, "Oh, family is the most important thing. Family is the most important thing," but they wouldn't act. But it was more like a pithy aphorism more than it was actually like, "But you broke up the family." It's like, "But you did all the stuff to my dad," or you like. And I started to realize I was like, family, like that's a lie that I was sold constantly and had no like. And once I started interacting with other families who weren't that dysfunctional, I was like, oh, not everyone is like this. People do talk to each other with some respect. Families do stay together and they can be healthy. Like, I think, and seeing more and more examples of that stuff, I was like, oh, this isn't, just because this is normal doesn't mean it's healthy. Just because, it's not normal for all of these people to get divorced all of the time and separate and then have all these infighting. It's like, well, that's just how family is. It's like, no, it's like that. I think it was some of those lies where it was like, I was told things were normal about the dysfunction. And it's like, well, everybody has issues in their family. Everybody has problems. It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that we don't either. And so I think, and it was, and so it was that plus, and if you point out any of those other problems, you're the problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
that, that's pretty much it.
well, I see something, and my family had all those dynamics too. And what I see going on there is there's a system in place, a way of doing things, and that system is more important than the person. Meaning, even if the system causes you pain, even if it causes you a lot of pain, even if it makes you depressed, anxious, etc., people say, oh, this person's struggling, that's so sad. They're going to keep using the same system, even if the system harms you. And if you resist that rigid system, then you'll get shame. Then the control, the manipulation, the criticism comes in, and all these mechanisms come in to get you back in your cage. So you're in a cage, you're in a painful system. You're told this thing causing you pain is good.
Exactly.
And we are over and over again in a covert way given. But I'm seeing this from what you described. If you feel free to disagree, I think you would agree, but covertly given the message, what I feel, what I think, who I am doesn't matter. Things have to be done a certain way, which is ultimately, my parents' way. And I don't matter. It has to be done this way. That's what's important, not me. And if it causes me pain, too bad.
So let me add something to the pile here. I'd come up with this definition years ago, and I don't know why I did, but it makes sense now, even more now than it was before. And I used to say years and years ago that dysfunction in a human being is nothing more than a symptom of agency having been removed either overtly or covertly. And let me explain that a little bit. When you have children, they come into this world. Of course, we talk about it often in a subconscious state, and they're learning and stuff like that. But they also come into this world with agency. And agency is the capacity. In other words, you have within you the ability to make decisions, suffer the consequences, and have independent thought so you can think. So we as parents, as we are raising our children, and I'll use the word unleash, we unleash on them more and more agency so that they can experience making choices and making decisions and then suffering through the consequences. And by the way, when I say suffer through, consequences can also be good, right? So there are good consequences from decisions that you still have to experience. But as you teach your children agency, they learn how to function with other people. They learn how to get along. And yes, the family is important because it's the best place to learn the things you need to learn to function in society well. That doesn't mean we all learn them in the family, but they're an important place to be because the dad provides some things the mom can't, and the mom provides some things the dad can't. But in great form, you teach your children how to exercise their agency properly. And that is ever reaching in every aspect of our lives. Now I understand more why I came up with that definition years ago, that dysfunction in a human being, which means not operating well, is a symptom of that agency having been removed either overtly or covertly. And I learn now that a lot of that is done from dysfunctional parents somewhere on the spectrum of narcissism.
Yeah, and one of the hallmarks of a dysfunctional family is rigid mindsets. Things have to be this way,
right?
And you have to fit in that box. And so that's where you just being able to express who you are, be who you really are, without shame. Maybe you need to express who you are in a healthy way that doesn't hurt others. Like if you're angry, don't just punch someone in the face. express that anger in a way that you know is not
expressed
going to
well
lead
and doesn't
to
hurt other people.
unnecessary downsides.
Yeah.
However, if you're honestly, if you're angry, you should be able to express it. You should.
Absolutely.
Like anger, I was taught that pretty much any anger, and it was my parents did have this standard of they could violate the rules, but we couldn't.
Correct.
And so my
They're the
dad would
parents.
rage, but if I ever showed even the slightest bit of irritability or anger or bitterness, yeah, they would come down on me hard. But then my dad would rage. I remember, and so there's a lot of hypocrisy in these narcissistic families. Do what I do, not what I do. What I say, not what I do. But everything they do is perfect. But then you can't do the same thing.
Right.
And so I remember there was this one time I was watching this TV show where they played pranks on people that scared people, but it was all it would scare them, but then it's like, oh, here's a camera here, here's a camera here, we're just joking with you. And my dad didn't like the show. He's like, this show is inappropriate, change the channel. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I stopped watching TV. I start playing a computer game, and the computer's in the same room as the television. And he changes it to a rated R war movie where the content's just graphic and people are F-bombing all the time. He's like, wait a second. 5 minutes ago, I was watching something that was PG rated and he thought it was inappropriate and bad. And then he changes it to this war movie where there's it's like a very graphic war movie where you see like limbs being blown off and like people screaming and as they're dying and like blood everywhere and people F-bombing and all that stuff. And I'm just like, wow, the level of hypocrisy here. But I was an adult at this point and it just blew my mind. But that was our family. We were under these very, very strict rules and my parents were just saints. And yet there was this hypocrisy there. So it's not only that there's a rigid system, but the narcissists don't have to follow the rules. And how dare you call them on it?
That's
you
right.
better not. You better not call them on the fact that they are actually being hypocrites. Oh man, you have hell to pay if you do that. But they will put you in a tight jacket and control and manipulate you to the nth degree, no problem. So the reason I think we're going into this is to kind of show you guys what dysfunction looks like, and especially in a narcissistic context.
Yeah,
and
only need.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say you only need like one, like you need to start cracking the ice a little bit. If you're living that dysfunction, you just need to. It's like that double black cat in the Matrix movie. It's like, hang on, I think there might be a problem here. I remember the moment when Ryan was giving a presentation all those years ago, because I didn't even think I needed hypnosis because I was so indoctrinated in my family system that I was like, I'm good. I don't need anything. But some of the things he's saying seemed to kind of resonate a little bit. Like it was like poking through just a bit. And so that's really the one of the reasons we do this is to like get you to start, if you're watching this, to get you to start to see it's like maybe something is wrong so you can break out of that trance, as he calls it.
Yeah.
And free yourself.
All right.
So here and
going back to the
pull it back up here. Sure. Right here. This. And I moved ahead to 60 a little bit to 16 or 33.
Yeah, just one more thing before we start playing. So what is the indicator? What is the number one indicator that you are a fish in a dirty pond and, the dirty water's all you've ever known, meaning this dysfunction, abuse, whatever, it's your normal. You think it's normal. What is the primary indicator that something's wrong, something is off, this isn't right, and you need to heal, and this is not normal, you're normal? The number one indicator for me is you're in pain, you're suffering at some level. You're on antidepressants because you're depressed. You have a lot of anxiety, way more than normal. you feel anger, rage that just bubbles up, and then you feel bad for it, just whatever. So if you are seeing maybe you have addictions, alcoholism, porn addict, whatever, maybe you have a ton of social anxiety, but all of these are things tied to suffering. So if you have any of these things, anything where you notice you're in pain, like repeatedly, like chronically, or it just gets triggered. It could be all the time, or it could be just triggered quite a bit. That pain is telling you something. It's telling you this may be your normal, but this is not healthy, and this is not normal. So pay attention to that suffering. It's trying to tell you something, and you're going to feel way better when you get rid of that and get out of the dirty pond into a clean pond.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll keep going.
Man, I have I happen to have thought about exactly what you just said for like hours yesterday, trying to figure out what are the symptoms that people come with.
Pain.
We'll get to that later.
Suffering. Yeah.
But I was able to categorize it.
And remember, that pain can be pretty normalized where you don't notice it as much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So this is I skipped ahead a bit to where Tim said around the 16-minute mark.
But if you pay attention, you will feel the pain.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. All right.
I want them to accept me. I want them to take care of my needs. I've always wanted a parent who would care. And I'm not ready to give up that fantasy.
Oh, man.
And if I can help someone give up those fantasies, they'll grow like nobody's business.
Really?
They
it's
just
the
go.
fantasy. It's the fantasy.
So what let's stop
back.
right there, Jordan.
That's part of it. Yes.
So the reason I picked out this particular part of the show for him was that he was explaining
We need to go further back.
If you go back to where it marked, I think we started it and then stopped it real quick, but he is explaining the need for external validation because you don't have internal validation.
And children naturally want external validation from their parents.
Yep.
But when they never get it, they're stuck in that cycle.
Yes.
So the solution to giving up that fantasy and getting something you'll never get from the dysfunctional people, which is their love and acceptance, the solution, and I know this from experience, is to become your own parent, give it to yourself. He talks about that later. And finding a new family, finding healthy people who accept you for who you are. But above all, it starts with you learning how to unconditionally love and accept yourself, learning how to accept the parts of you that are flawed. Welcome to the human race. Congratulations, you have flaws just like everyone else, still good enough. Learn to accept that, be okay with that, love yourself, give yourself love, validation, and approval. However, to really, 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 really get there, you need to rewire your core identity beliefs. And the most complete, thorough way to do that is what we do. Like bar none. Psychedelics can be extremely helpful. There's some risk to them as well. I do know some people who've had their life changed by psychedelics. I also know people who've taken tons and tons and tons and still had tons of trauma. So normal therapy, 60% of my depression was fixed by normal therapy. Took 100 sessions. Probably most of that 60% was fixed within 40, 50. And then very much diminishing returns. But the other 40%, it couldn't touch. Couldn't touch the anger, couldn't touch the anxiety, many other things I struggled with. And then I found our techniques and it fixed all of that. So, yeah. Anything to add?
Did you want me to go further back on that clip, Tim, or should I move to the next?
1633 is good. It was I just picked it out because he's talking about the need for external validation. And like Ryan said, if you don't get some in the beginning and shore up how good you feel about yourself, you will continue to seek that the rest of your life because you don't have any internal validation.
Yeah, and
That
what's
was
the problem with
better.
external validation? There's one big problem.
Not enough.
Not enough, and you can't 100% guarantee you'll get it from the outside world.
That's right.
You may get the opposite, and that makes you very internally fragile. It makes you very internally fragile, but if you can generate your own self-love, self-approval, you become very internally strong because you can give that to yourself anytime you need it. And that then empowers you to be resilient, keep moving forward during the tough times.
So
during the times when the outside world doesn't give it to you.
Yeah, Global puts down there, most births are accidental. Actually not.
Yeah,
if you get
they're
pregnant,
mostly
if you
intentional,
get pregnant, births are the consequence. Now, I think what he means here is that a number of pregnancies are accidental. And that I would agree with, because some people are out there messing around with things they should be messing around with. And then they eventually have a baby and they're not equipped to raise that child or even support for that child.
I think it is, what is it, 1 million abortions a year in the U.S.?
It's a bunch.
There are a lot of unintentional pregnancies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say more intentional. It'd be we'll double check the data after the show. Pretty sure more though are intentional.
They didn't mean to get pregnant, but they certainly were participating in the activity that would lead to that.
I'm not sure what you mean here. Give children a place to question authority. Never going to happen. Maybe you could spell that out in more detail, more clearly, Global. I'm not sure what you're getting at there.
All right. I moved
Anyways,
ahead
we'll
to the next timestamp.
Yeah, all of these sections were good. I was just pulling out little snippets that were out of the general conversation. Astounding.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Adults don't need a parent.
But some people live with their parents till they're 30.
Adults may wish or want to have mothers and fathers. I'm not saying break up your whole family because you turned 18. I'm talking about parenting. Parenting is parent to child, not parent to adult. Of course, there are exceptions. Of course, there are people with disabilities or I understand there's all kinds of variations. But generally, if I tell people, I go, and what do you need your parent to do? Well, I need them to treat me. And I'm going, why do you need to treat them? Why do you need them to treat you better? Why? Well, I'll never be happy if there you are. You've just hooked together. You'll never be happy unless this fantasy comes true. And I can already tell you it's not going to come true because it's been going on for 35 years. And I doubt if your parents are going to just one day go, could miracles happen? Of course, miracles can happen. But I'm not in the miracle business.
Yeah.
So
I am.
If they do, they do.
Yeah,
it's
we are.
interesting because the people watching and listening right now, if you're listening, if you're watching this right now, I want you to leave a comment below and say if you had a happy, like if your parents loved you, supported you, approved of you, most of the time, comment below happy childhood. If you feel like your parent, you could never get the approval of your parents, they were never satisfied with you, they're always judging and critical of you, type in challenging childhood in the comments below. And I'm curious, what is the pro and con of having a healthy relationship with your parents versus an unhealthy relationship with your parents, wanting them to approve and love you as adults?
Right. Well, that's because then yourself won't develop. You are living a pseudo self, waiting on them to give you a self by them going, you're wonderful and we love you. And the thing is, the same is true with if parents have caused trauma. Once you become an adult, they can no longer fix that for you ever. They could say I'm sorry, they could be remorseful, but I keep telling clients or coaching people that they can't fix it. This is now yours to fix. whatever they did is now yours to fix, not theirs to fix.
Even
They
if
True.
they
can't
do,
fix it.
even if they do apologize, it still
Well,
may not
what
solve the
is that-
problem. Yeah, you don't
yeah,
have to
well,
fix it still.
Exactly. How does that fix it?
Right.
And so they always go back. I'm going to confront them and tell them, and you're just going to get caught up in the system even deeper.
Really.
You're going to go down in the quicksand even more if you go do that. And I always tell people the time to confront people is when you don't need to. If you need to, you're probably out of sync.
Really.
So, not that we can't confront some people, or
Yeah.
I got to confront if they're not giving me my coffee, and
Sure.
you know, I got to. But generally, I'm talking about this emotional stuff.
You know what's interesting that you say that? I was sexually abused when I was 5 by a man that I didn't know. And I've
Let's
talked about
pause
it openly on
there
the show
real
many-
quick. So I
Yeah,
just
good
wanted to
stuff there.
point out what the client is doing as he's kind of, you know, portraying this interaction between him and the client is the client is talking about how they feel things should be, and he's trying to get them into reality and getting them to deal with how things really are. And when we are raised in these dysfunctional families, you know, we're taught things should be a certain way, but then how things should be according to the family dynamics we're raised in and what we're taught in dysfunctional families, it doesn't function in society. And so one way to know you've been narcissistically abused, I pointed this out earlier for me, is you get into the outside world as an adult and you're struggling and you're just like, maybe, you know, you see other people having nice lives, being happy, getting in good relationships, etc., and you're not, and you have no idea how to get there. That is a huge sign. Or you're like, it's unfair, you know, why do they get that and I don't? It's unfair. Well, a lot of stuff in life is unfair. It's unfair if you had abusive parents and now you have to fix the problem they created. It's unfair, absolutely. But when he says it's your responsibility, it's because whether it's fair or not, that's reality. You are the only one who can fix yourself. You're the only one who has the power to do it. So whether it's fair or not, what should be, what should not be, what's right, what's wrong, throw it out the window, deal with reality. And the reality is you're the only one that can fix yourself. Now, the good news is I tell my clients all the time, there's no greatness without adversity. You overcome this adversity, you will find greatness. Part of that greatness, for example, is you had many generations before you of abusive parents abusing their kids, and then the kids growing up and becoming the abusers. Multiple. If you're in this narcissistic family dynamic or some other similar abusive or very dysfunctional family dynamic, it's been going on for generations. You overcome that, and then you have kids. Now you have several generations, maybe many generations, where people are not suffering, where your kids, your grandkids, great grandkids are emotionally healthy, and just functioning and feeling way freaking better. So just this act of healing this trauma, only you can do it. Is that fair? Yes, no. Well, doesn't matter. You get the greatness from overcoming it. You become that central figure in your bloodline that changed everything, not just for yourself, but potentially hundreds of people in your bloodline down the road. That is an act of greatness. It is. And you get to keep all of the wisdom and the deep lessons learned that you would never otherwise learn if you didn't have the trauma that led you to learn these deep lessons in order to overcome the trauma.
Right.
I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I did not go. And I have changed the lives of several hundred people, not a little, a lot, like massively, like completely changed the course of their life. Could not do that if I did not have my traumatic upbringing.
Yep. And I want to double down on that where he says, you know, it is your responsibility. I mean, he's like, even if they apologize, even if you make amends or whatever, it's like you still have those subconscious programs in your head. You have to take them out. Like I actually put this in one of my presentations a while back, was like, it's you either take them out or you live with them until you die. It's like they don't just go away on their own. They might lessen over time. You might numb yourself to them over time, but like, you either do the work now or you die with it. And I'm like, and for me,
trauma's like that.
Since I'd rather get it out and then live the rest of my life a lot freer than I ever was before. So
yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, I agree. It's not fair that you have to do it, but you do have to do it, because what's the alternative? The alternative is worse. So the alternative is you live with it forever.
Yeah, let me throw an analogy out there that both these guys are alluding to well, but just in case you don't get it, you're driving down the road and off the back of a truck ahead of you falls a 2x4 with 3 nails in it. And you can't swerve out of the way, and you hit that 2x4 with your tire, and your tire now has a flat. You can continue to drive and destroy your car, or you, regardless of how the hole got there, need to pull over, change your tire, take the tire to a tire shop, get it fixed, put it back on your car, and keep on rolling down the road. Well, this is the same thing. A lot of trauma has been unleashed in the world on human beings. The human being that is experienced and has cataloged that trauma away and is suffering from it is the only person, number one, that can fix it, and number two, that will immediately benefit from it. Others, like Ryan mentions, will benefit down the chain, if you will. But yeah, you got to fix it. Take it upon yourself. Know that you're in pain and figure out a way out. We are one way to help you out of that pain. Oh, good job, Ryan. You just got 1,000 subs.
I was gonna say, breaking news.
Oh, yeah. No, I was 1,000. Skinny Too Swell. I was 1,000, and then someone quit, so I'm at 999 again.
Oh, dang.
Anyways, I want to add to that, Tim. When you fix your trauma, it's not okay. I'm down here in pain, and here's the normal population doing okay. It's not you fix your trauma and you get to normal. When you fix your trauma, you gain wisdom and insights that the average person in the population does not have. You don't go from here to normal. You go from here to here. And you will find you are operating because of the lessons you've learned and the wisdom you have. You will be operating above the normal population. Like, you are going to have more power, more resilience, more toughness, more compassion, more understanding. You're going to be navigating life at an elevated level that your average, and it's because you learned the things you had to learn to overcome your suffering. And that your average person just going on autopilot through life is completely oblivious to. You're operating at a higher level than that person.
Yeah, let me add to that, Ryan.
Lessons. Go ahead.
I will never have the wisdom and experience that Ryan Fowler went through and healed himself, because I've not suffered through that. I can now help heal people, but I still do not have the experience or wisdom that he gained having gone through that.
You do have your own strengths, though.
Well, but I mean, we all do, right? But I'm just saying, I won't have that wisdom and experience from that challenge that you have gone through. I've got my own challenges and other strengths and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. It is. Yeah.
But I am a benefactor, let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't take away from the fact that you're an awesome guy and a great friend.
That, thanks.
So.
All right, you want to keep going on the clip? Let's see. Let's look at what other timestamps Tim put in here. 27. Let's go a little further ahead.
I mean, you could. The whole thing is really good, but we can just pick out things to go to.
Yeah, I mean,
this is something interesting you said. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. If we had a horrible childhood, and
that's a good spot.
We're in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, And we just think, man, my childhood was miserable. It's challenging. I don't have many good memories. How can you have a good childhood as an adult if all you had is bad memories as a child? Women's health affects more than women. In fact, research from the World Economic Forum and McKinsey health
Child. Great question. When do you stop being a child?
when you become a parent, when you grow up, when you remove yourself from the parent.
When do you stop having a child inside you?
Never. So you
Start your childhood now.
by you becoming the parent to yourself.
Self-parenting, reparenting. And now I'm going to ask myself, what would you like to go do to play? Because just like with a tree starts out with a little branch and it grows up to be a big, big tree, but the little tree hasn't gone away. I mean, it's still in there. It's still a part of the growth. And we're the same way. It's called our inner child. And the inner child we have all the rest of our lives. And many people actually, because of their family of origin, abuse their inner child because that's what happened when they grew up. And so
let's stop right there for a
parent
second.
themselves.
I really love this part because one of the funnest things to do through our sessions that we do is once we get rid of the anger and all the frustration of our parents and people we're angry or mad at, and then we clear some trauma to where they're no longer feeling that trauma, we literally in the subconscious go back with that patient and meet that inner child.
Client, we're not patients.
Whatever. meet that inner child.
We're not medical practitioners.
Yeah. Meet the inner child that was left in a spot where that child was happy. And from there on out, created this subconscious mask to deal with the world because of the abuse. That inner child is there. And I'm telling you that when I'm doing these sessions, that right there are some of the sweetest, most tender moments throughout the session, bringing goosebumps to me now, almost makes me want to cry with some of the things I've experienced, taking people back to that inner child, and they meet and they play and they enjoy one another. And then the current person who's now healed somewhat goes with that inner child and becomes one. And they literally bring that child forward into the future where that child has missed that whole experience. Look what the new next says. Meeting the inner child was incredibly powerful. Every single one of us, you, whatever you want to say it, has that inner child, and that inner child never goes away, but needs to grow up and be supported. And you as the adult is the one that's going to go back there as a healed human being, pick up that inner child and move forward. And then the two of you will meet the future awesome you and become all one. It is a tremendously spiritual experience to go through that level of authenticity.
Yeah. By the way, the new next wrote me a very nice letter saying how much his life is better after his session. It's my honor and pleasure, sir.
No doubt.
Also, I did send you some resources. I'm wondering if they went in your junk email. I replied. I sent you 2 emails. I replied to the one where you were looking for resources. I did send them, so check your junk email, please. If not, then just email me again. We'll sort it out. Maybe email me on, message me on the school platform if you don't get in RyanFowlerSOS, which is right down there, school.com/RyanFowlerSOS-7231. That's our free community. There is a free basic self-hypnosis course there, which can be very powerful. But the new next, check your junk email because I did send the resources to you.
He just said he's super busy at work. And let me talk about the new next is life has changed, right? We often talk about how the productivity of people that we help heal themselves increases. And the only reason it increases is because they're no longer wasting as much time as they had previously with anxiety or procrastination or rumination. They just go get to it. And that's the exciting part.
Talking about inner child. Yeah, absolutely. I've had so many clients say, oh, I feel like I'm a kid again. I can be playful again.
Yes.
They can just, so many people are just burdened or they're playing in these rigid mindsets, rigid roles. And then they connect with their inner child and they can just, go ahead and tell a dirty joke. Shit. Man, yeah. So I love it when they're like, yeah, I can be playful again. I'm not burdened. I'm not in this straitjacket, and it's awesome. It really is. Get in touch with that inner child and it's okay to let them out.
Yeah, but I love that part of that thing he was talking about, the inner child. We can keep going if you want. We're at an hour. We're at an hour already.
We could always cover the rest of this next week too.
Yep. It's a really good one. It's impactful. And what I like about this is it brings everything we do down to a very common level that most people are experiencing.
Yeah.
Very good.
I mean, the inner child's neat. I mean, it's almost like you are going back in time in a way and actually providing the support that was to the inner child that wasn't there to begin with. And so he talks about this reparenting yourself. In a way, that's kind of what that technique in hypnosis is doing. And so time machines don't exist, but it kind of is like a time machine in a way.
Yep.
It's
absolutely.
So this therapist, he knows about inner child work. He has the wisdom. He knows where he wants to get people who are struggling, where he wants to get them so that they're no longer struggling, so that they're more happy, more free, more resilient, claim their power, etc. The big difference is he doesn't know that there is a method to, at a deep level, rewire your brain and get that bad stuff out and get the good stuff in you, like very rapidly, very powerfully, and permanently. That's what we do. If only he knew the technique, because he already has all the knowledge and wisdom of what healthy is, what unhealthy. He understands all these dynamics. He just doesn't know how to get that in the person, like boom, like that. Dr. Andrew Huberman knows. Stanford neuroscientist, one of his very first videos on one of the top 10 podcasts in the world. One of his very first videos on YouTube, how to use focus to change your brain. He outlines the 5 steps to make your brain neuroplastic and then instantly get old stuff out, put new stuff in. Stanford neuroscientist, watch it. He shows you what to do. Watch my 4-part YouTube series on super neuroplasticity. There's tons of science behind what we do. It's there. But the rank and file therapist has not embraced it yet, probably doesn't even know about it because it's not taught in any of these DEI woke universities trying to hit their woke DEI quotas instead of actually innovating, trying to please the pharmaceutical companies that fund them and don't want a quick, powerful solution. And it's a shame, but it is still, nonetheless, it is available. If he wants to learn it, I'll teach him. I hope someday he does. Anyways, any final comments from you guys?
No, sir. This is a good one. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, this guy does have the knowledge. He just doesn't know. He is slowly over time using repetition to rewire people's brain and help them. And it doesn't go as deep. It's not as effective. Yes, you can rewire someone's brain through a lot of repetition over and over and over, meeting week after week after week after week for years with your therapist. Can that partially rewire your brain and help people? Yes, I've been through the 100 therapy sessions. It can, but it's so slow and ineffective compared to what we do with our clients, not patients, because we're not medical practitioners. So,
right.
Anything else?
My final thoughts is I like seeing these different therapists talk about the same subject in slightly different ways. I think it's helpful for people to kind of some framing, and like him using the tree analogy or the trance, the language he uses, I think it's really neat because people will resonate with different just expressions of the same ideas. So that's why we keep talking about these different subjects in different ways, is because
Different
everyone
approaches
might
resonate with different people. Yeah.
Right.
Hello, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Chris. All right.
Yeah,
So
that's all I got.
yeah. Anything final, Tim?
No, sir. This was a good one. I love this topic. This is very, very basic and common that many people can understand and relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about being narcissistically abused is narcissists, Melanie Tonia Evans, who specializes in helping people heal from narcissistic abuse, and she does use a lot of the methods we use. A lot of what she does is very effective. Her stuff is what I first found that they helped me 13 years ago. And she says, and she's talking about when you have a relationship with a narcissist, you marry a narcissist or get a narcissistic boyfriend or girlfriend. She says when we first meet a narcissist, we think they're the savior of our wounds. It's because narcissists are incredibly charming. They'll love bomb you. And if you're a person with low self-esteem, narcissists will target you. And she says, we think narcissists are the savior of our wounds. They are actually the messenger of our wounds.
Yep.
And the interesting thing about narcissistic abuse is they go to the deepest parts of you and bring out your deepest fears, sadness, insecurity, toxic shame, and they trigger it over and over and over and bring all this stuff to the surface. And it causes tremendous pain. But the upside is when you heal it, you've been healed so thoroughly and so profoundly. You now just have this incredibly deep insight about the human soul. So that is the upside. If you've been narcissistically abused, I can't wait until you get on the other side, because you're going to go through life having so much knowledge and wisdom about how humans work and the human condition. And it's freaking awesome. I mean, you're going to be like, you're like reading them. You go through life and you're like reading the Matrix. You just see stuff in people. I know what that's about. I know what that's about. And just understanding things at such a deep level. So if you are suffering, get on the other side. You have no idea how good it's on the other side. I'm not saying I don't suffer ever. You're still a human, but
when Ryan says the other side, it's not dying. It's the other side of from trauma to no trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. Just so you guys know, we're not talking about dying. We're talking about healing. All right. Great show. Thanks guys for watching. P-Dubs. Thank you as well. Zoromina, Chris, the new Next Global, everyone else. And you can get on the other side, and you're really becoming a transcendent person when you do. It's awesome. We highly recommend it. You can do it. We don't need our parents to love us. Of course, we want them to love us. But when you give yourself self-love and when you claim your own power, it's not only enough for you, it's more than enough so that you now have extra love to share with others. You can do it. You do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thanks for watching.